Another nail and put another nail in my coffin! It's me, your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is my series, Nails in a Coffin, where we learned that with great kills, there must also come great nails. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you are new here, you can check out the description below so you can read what Nails in a Coffin is all about. Thanks. Now, before I get started with the video, it's the holidays, obviously, so I like bringing a little bit of holiday cheer around this time of year. So I'm giving away these two Funko Pops, of one of Spidey and a Chase variant, a signed one by Marisol Ramirez from the movie The Curse of La Llorona. So to be entered and win, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel and leave a comment on any video, starting back from my Nails in a Coffin video on Tucker and Dale versus Eva, which went on November 10th. I'll put a card up here. So from that video and any video to December 15th, you can enter once per video. Just leave a comment. I'll put everybody's name in a random generator, and I will send you out these two lovely gifts just to make somebody smile for the holidays. Cool. You saw the title of the video. I am covering a remake of one of my all-time favorite slashers, We're Nailing Black Christmas from 2006. I've seen this film about twice before covering it, and I really never had an urge to see it again. It's far from the worst remake out there, trust me. You got the Child's Play remake, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Those are some of the worst remakes out there. But this is not the worst, but it does have some flaws to it. I find it hard to enjoy this film, but there are some moments in it that are somewhat entertaining. But regardless of how much I like it, we still need to nail those victims. So sit back, relax, grab some eggnog, and let the nailing begin. We get our first kill only 2 minutes into the movie. We go through a window shot of Claire. She's sitting in a room drinking a glass of wine while writing a card out to Lee. She hears something and notices some movement in her closet, so she goes to get up to check it. You're expecting someone to jump out like the original, but it's a fake out. There's nothing there. She sits back down, and we notice someone hiding under the tree in her room. She goes to finish writing a card for Leigh, and she goes to pick up her calligraphy pen, but it's missing. She looks around for a moment, and a plastic bag is placed over her head. The person who put the bag over her head takes the calligraphy film and jams it into Claire's eyeball right into a title card. Claire gets our first set of nails, and I'm going to give her 2 nails in a coffin. There wasn't much that she could have done once she was attacked. I mean, if a victim gets a surprise kill from behind, I normally just give them 2 nails in a coffin, since they really didn't have a chance to defend themselves, or they really didn't even know they were in danger. I should mention that Claire didn't know somebody was in a room hiding under a tree, but I guess not everybody has a spidey sense. I didn't think anything she did that could be considered stupid, so I really can't take a points away from that. So she's going to get 2 nails in a coffin for not having much of a chance of survival here. Our next kill is in an asylum for the criminally insane, like Arkham, I guess. Security guard on duty sees someone place a gift on the door's food tray. He looks to the opening in the food tray, sees the room guest sitting there in the rocking chair eating a candy cane, and it's sharpened to a point. I wonder what's going to happen. The guard opens the door, and he opens the gift, I should say, and there's a message there saying, "I'll be home for Christmas." He looks back in the opening, and the person is no longer there. He enters his room, and he sees what looks like a hole dug into the wall. The guard's on the floor looking at the hole, and the room occupant, who is hiding under the chair, comes out, takes the sharpened candy cane, jams it into the guard's neck, killing him. This unnamed guard is getting 1 nail in the coffin. I expect a guard at an asylum for the criminally insane to have much better training than this idiot. He saw someone in the room, and then they were gone. And when he walked into the room, he never turned the light on, nor did he clear the room, flashlight, look around everything. He immediately left his back open, his 6 open. I mean, this is just bad training and stupidity got this guard killed. He went into the corner, never checked anything of his surroundings before he went into the corner of a room. So yeah, the best this idiot's going to get is only 1 nail in the coffin. Megan is in her room, and she hears a noise coming from the attic, so she goes down to the hallway and over to the ladder up in the attic. She climbs up the ladder to the opening and sticks her head in, but she doesn't really see nothing. She sees a snow globe in front of her, and as she looks around, she doesn't know anything else that calls concern. She climbs into the attic, and she's looking around for anything suspicious. She sees Claire's figure sitting in a rocking chair, and she asks her, what are you doing? And as soon as she does this, a blag is placed over her head, and she's stabbed in the back of the head with an ornament, and then her eyeball is ripped out and eaten. I'm going to award Megan 2 nails in a coffin. She was killed almost in the same way as Claire, and I also really didn't see her do anything stupid that aided in her demise. She heard a noise in the attic. She went to investigate, though Claire was sitting in a rocking chair. I mean, it was Claire, but she was dead. And before Megan could find that out, she was attacked from behind, violently attacked, I should say. And this is another one of your typical surprise kills from behind where the victim isn't given much of a chance to defend themselves. So she goes down the middle, and I give her 2 nails in the coffin. Back at the asylum, a Rent-A-Santa is walking the halls looking for a specific type of holiday treat. He thinks he's talking to one of the nurses about this gift, and he's looking down a dark corridor. Out from the darkness of the shadows behind him, we see a man with yellow skin come from behind a door, and then the screen cuts to Santa's feet, and all we see of this kill is a splash of blood on the floor. I'm going to give this guy the same as Claire and Megan, 2 nails in the coffin. He didn't do anything stupid. He was just looking for a holiday treat. This is more the fault the way the asylum is run than it's his fault. Security sucks here. I know it's nighttime, but it's like in every other building, all the lights are off for some reason except for Christmas lights. So you really can't see anything in an asylum for the criminally insane. So it's more the building, definitely more the way the building is managed than his fault. The guy probably never knew what hit him, and neither do we, so the best he's going to get is 2 nails in the coffin. Back at the sorority house, house mother Mrs. Mack is telling the remaining girls the legend of Billy. Billy used to live in a sorority house. He was born with jaundice due to liver disease, and he was constantly abused by his mother, Constance. He does witness Constance and her boyfriend murder Billy's father on Christmas Eve. We don't see enough of Billy's dad's death, so I'm not going to rate it because I really just don't have enough to go on here. In another flashback, we learned that years later, Billy would get revenge on his mother and stepfather. He was forced to live in the attic by his mother, and on Christmas Eve, he would take Agnes, his daughter/sister, yeah, it's gross, up to the attic. He called his mom from up there and said, "My family now." Mom and stepdad ran up there to get Agnes, but he wasn't there. He was downstairs ripping out Agnes's eye and eating it. Stepdad sees this and he takes a run at Billy, but Billy picks up an ornament and stabs it right through his stepdad's eye, coming out the back of his skull. This is an easy one right here. Billy's stepfather gets 1 nail in the coffin. I don't know how you run headfirst into a sharp object and never move or act if you have had reflexes. Were his eyes closed the entire time? How do you not pay attention to what's in front of you? I don't know what his plan was, just to run into him and just like hit him with your head. I mean, it was a typical kill for a stupid person in a slasher where they just react without thinking about what the hell they're doing. Constance is now distraught at the sight of her husband's death. Billy takes a string of lights off the tree, wraps them around his mother's neck, and strangles her. He then drags her into the kitchen and finishes her off by beating her to death with the rolling pin. Sometimes I nail in the coffin, I feel it appropriate when I rate the victim to take into consideration the person's actions that put them in their current predicament. So with Constance, that's what I'm doing here, and I'm giving her 1 nail in the coffin. If she wasn't such an abusive, evil, sick individual, Billy would not have wanted to kill her. You know, she essayed her own son to have a child, and she kept him locked away in the attic for like the first 21 years of his life. She also never tried to get away from Billy after she saw Billy kill her husband. I mean, I was glad to see this witch die, deservedly so, but she's only getting 1 nail in the coffin for being such a crap human being. A little later in the night, the lights go out in the sorority house. Dana checks the circuit breaker but doesn't bring the lights back on, so she says the main breaker is located under the house. She volunteers to go check. She goes outside, looks under the house, trying to locate the breaker, and as she's looking under the house, she thinks one of her sorority sisters is under there trying to scare her, but it's not who she thinks it is. She's dragged under the house, and then Billy is on top of her. She's trying to fight him off, but he grabs a garden claw, slams it on the top of her head, killing her, and then, like with a lot of other victims, he pulls her eyes out. Dana earned herself 2.5 nails in a coffin. She did her best to try and fight off Billy, but he did overpower her, and I didn't see her do anything stupid here. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I like how she told Lee that she wasn't your typical airhead sorority sister. She could take care of herself, which is why she decided to check the breaker under the house. I like not having to be your typical trope character who's playing dumb and helpless. So she's going to sit comfortably with 2.5 nails in the coffin because she did fight to try and get away from Billy. And so far, that's the highest nail rating I've given in this movie. The girls are starting to go missing with the power out. Everyone else is starting to show concern. So they go outside to look for the others. Heather goes to Eve's car since it's still there. And when she opens the door, Eve's head falls out. Her death was off screen, so I can't give that one a nail rating. After finding Eve's head and noticing that there are still 3 girls missing, Kelly calls the cops, but they're experiencing heavy traffic due to the snowstorm. The other girls want to stay in the house. Mrs. Mack wants to leave, so not being able to come up to an agreement, they decide to split up, which always works out for you in a horror movie. Mrs. Mack and Heather get to the car, and after a few turns, the car does start. Heather gets in, but before they can drive away, Mrs. Mack has to clear off the windshield since it's frozen over. She gets out of the car, and she's starting to scrape off the ice. The entire car shudders for a moment, startling Mrs. Mack. Then all of a sudden we see a big splash of blood from all over in the inside of the car. Heather was killed off screen and we don't see anything really what happened to her, so I'm not going to be able to give her a fair nail rating. After seeing that splash of blood, Mrs. Mack backs up in horror and she bumps into the garage door, causing an icicle to fall off the roof, killing her. At first, I wasn't really sure how to rate this death, and I finally decided to give it Mrs. Mack, who was also played Phil in the original Black Christmas, 2 nails in a coffin. She was probably in shock at seeing the splash of blood inside of her car. I mean, she backed up as most people would do in this situation, and she really didn't have much of a time to react once the icicle fell on top of her. And like I said, she was probably in shock, and timing was really bad. So another one, wrong place at the wrong time, and I really didn't want to give her a pass since things were still in her control. So I'm going to give Mrs. Mack 2 nails in a coffin. Melissa's now looking out the window wondering why Mrs. Mack's car is still there. She hears Lee scream. Melissa runs into the hallway calling for Kelly, and she's looking over the banister, and from behind, Agnes pulls a bag over her head and drags her back. But Melissa was able to get free, and she runs into her room. She's beating Agnes with the pole, but Agnes gets back up. Melissa stops hitting her and tries the window again, and it takes her too long to realize that the window was locked. Agnes grabs an ice skate, and before Melissa can get out the window, she throws the ice skate into the back of Melissa's head, killing her. Poor Melissa, she was on her way to getting at least 3 or 3.5 nails in a coffin, but in the end, she made some really poor decisions, so I'm going to give her 2.5 nails. She started out great, getting away from the bag overhead rather quickly, and she ran to her room, which was the closest place to her. She tried to get to the window, but she couldn't open it, so she grabbed a weapon to fight Agnes. So after she hit Agnes and she knocked her down, she stopped hitting her. She should have kept kicking her, stomping her if the ski pole broke. She could have kept hitting her, kicking her, stomping her, doing something. Make sure Agnes stayed down. The woman just tried to attack you. But then she forgot how windows work. She didn't know it was locked. She just pulled up on it and never checked the lock after trying it a bunch of times. So I'm probably being a little bit generous with 2.5 nails after her mistakes, but I'm going to stick with it. Lauren was laying in her bed nursing a hangover. She's awakened by a sensation beneath the covers. Startled, she glances upward to see a crystal unicorn on her nightstand. She grabs it. With a swift motion, she turns over and slams into the mattress, not hitting anything. But then suddenly, Agnes jumps on top of her, starts to choke her. Lauren's struggling to breathe, but Agnes grabs the unicorn and uses it to kill Lauren, and a nice throwback to the original film. Lauren, she earned herself 1.5 nails in a coffin. As soon as she felt something in her bed, the first thing she should have done was get the F out of the bed and get out of the room. It was a stupid thing to do just to stay in bed that long. I gave her the extra half an hour since she did grab something to use as a weapon, but she really should have gotten out of bed to at least see what the hell was going on, turn the light on, get out of the room. Even if it's one of your sorority sisters, somebody's touching you in the bed, you don't know who it is, you get the frick out of the bed right away. But yeah, I'm only going to give her 1.5 nails. Kyle, Kelly, and Lee are the only ones left lying in the house, except for Billy and Agnes. They know someone's in the attic because they heard Melissa's phone. So Kyle says, we're going to check the attic. If anybody's there, we're getting the F out of here. Kyle's about to climb up into the attic. Kelly's going to hand him a flashlight. But Agnes puts a bag over Kyle's head, I should say, and drags him up into the attic, dragging him across the floor. She's about to kill him with the unicorn, but he blocks it, gets her off of him. He's crawling across the floor, trying to get the bag off of his head. Agnes is stalking him. Before Lee and Kelly can actually get up in there to help Kyle, Agnes stands over his head and kills him with the crystal unicorn. There are a good amount of kills in this movie. Kyle, I'm going to give him 2.5 nails in a coffin. He fought Agnes the entire time from as soon as she put the bag over his head. He was able to knock her off of him, and he did try to get away from her. But it took him a little bit too long to get the bag on his head. That should have been priority number 1 as soon as he was out from under her. It was only a trash bag, so those were pretty easy to break open. He never used his fingers to try and at least get himself a breathing hole, rip it off of his head. You know, if you've taken the trash out, you know how easy they are to rip open. He did put up a fight, so I do have to give him more than 2 nails in the coffin. Agnes has all the bodies of her victims up in the attic, sans eyes, and the eyes are actually used as Christmas ornaments. Yuck. Kelly is telling Agnes that these people are not her family, and Agnes says, Daddy is here. Ew. And Billy climbs up into the attic. Kelly and Agnes fight, and a fire starts in the attic. Agnes falls down the side of the wall, dragging Kelly down with her. Agnes falls all the way down, and Kelly is barely hanging on right now. Agnes is climbing up the wall, and Billy is climbing down with Kelly in the middle. Lee starts to break through the wall to save Kelly, and before Billy can get to Kelly, Lee pulls her out through the wall, and the fire is starting to spread. Christmas tree on fire falls between the walls, makes the fire spread even faster. Lee and Kelly pour some convenient paint thinner in the laundry room, and they run out of the house as the fire continues to spread throughout the entire place. We then cut to the hospital's morgue where a coroner is killed when Billy jumps out of the body bag. He kills the guy with the surgical saw. We don't actually see the kill, and I really don't have too much to go on here. If I were to guess, I'd give him 1 nail in the coffin, but I don't see enough to go on anything, so not going to give him a nail rating. In a hospital room, Lee is sitting with Kelly, who's recovering from her injuries. Nurse comes in and takes Kelly to get some x-rays. We then see Billy climb up into an overhanging ceiling. Lee hears something from up above, and she goes out into the hallway to follow the sound. She goes back into Kelly's room, and there's somebody in Kelly's bed. Lee walks over to bed, and guess who it is? Agnes. She grabs Lee around the neck, and using her inbred super strength, he just snaps Lee's neck. Lee was a fighter up until this point. She did make some smart decisions, but she lost it there at the end. I'm going to give her 1.5 nails in a coffin. There's no reason she should have thought that was Kelly in the bed. The nurse just took her to get x-rays. She would have heard or noticed Kelly get back in the room when she was in the hallway, since she didn't go far down the hallway at all. It was dumb for her to approach the bed thinking it was Kelly. She had many options that she just didn't take here. So she avoids 1 nail in the coffin, since she did survive everything when the house caught fire and saving Kelly and everything else. So she gave herself a little bit more credit, winding up with 1.5 nails in the coffin. Skip ahead a few minutes, and Kelly is laying back down in her room, and she asks the nurse where Lee is, and the nurse doesn't know. Maybe the restroom? The nurse leaves, and Kelly lays down to relax, and then she finds a bloody piece of jewelry that was Lee's. She gets up, but the door to the hallway is stuck. Just a homage to the original. She then looks overhead, sees pulling by one of the lights. She runs to the door. It's locked. She starts banging, screaming for help. An overhead panel moves, and before the person can drop down, Kelly runs to the defibrillator, charges it up. Agnes pulls the curtain back and grabs Kelly. The paddles reach their charge. Kelly spins around, zaps Agnes in the head, killing the inbred bitch. I'm giving Agnes 1.5 nails in a coffin. Throughout the movie, she had multiple opportunities to kill everybody. But just like we see in most horror movies, villains like to play games with their victims and waste time for useless exposition and crap. Why brag to your victims when the plan is to kill them anyways? Don't waste time, just do it. She avoids 1 nail in the coffin for these common mistakes, since she was such a ruthless killer throughout the film, picking people off fairly easily. But yeah, wasting all this time and stuff is just so unnecessary. Just kill the person if you're going to kill them. So she only gets 1.5 nails in a coffin. Kelly runs out of the room and goes down the hallway in this deserted hospital at night. Billy jumps down from the ceiling and he follows her throughout the door. When he steps into the hallway, he's hit in the face with the crutch by Kelly. She hits him a few times and throws the crutch down and runs away. Billy grabs the crutch, trips the young woman. She gets back up, runs into a crash cart. But Billy had picked up a scalpel and he's stabbing Kelly in the back a few times as she falls out of the door into the stairwell. She's able to toss him over the railing and he falls all the way down 3 floors and he's impaled on top of a tree. Billy gets the final set of nails in 2006's Black Christmas, and he gets 1.5 nails in a coffin, just like his sister/daughter. He survived being burned in a house fire, but we see that time and time again, the villain is just toying with the victim. If he and Agnes really wanted to kill Kelly, they could have teamed up and attacked her at the same time instead of going one by one. But we didn't get that. We get the slow, methodical, let me take my time and toy with the target, and it's just instead of just killing him the soonest chance we get. But again, he did kill a lot of people, so just like his sister/daughter, he's getting 1.5 nails in a coffin. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my nails in a coffin for Black Christmas 2006. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. The average nails in a coffin for Black Christmas is 1.75 nails, which is where I expect most slashers to be. Now, I covered the original Black Christmas 2 years ago when I first started my channel. That was a rough video. I didn't use any graphics of the cast or anything, just a nail graphic in the corner. And also, the way I do my ratings kind of advanced in the past 2 years, and I wasn't as comfortable in front of the camera back then as I was now. And I'll probably redo that movie next year just so I can, give it a better shot. Surprisingly, both movies had an average of 1.75 nails. The original Black Christmas only had 4 on-screen kills, however. This one had way more. I'll see you here next week when I cover probably the best Christmas movie in the history of cinema. It's going to be a fun ride when I cover that movie on Nails in a Coffin. Hope you're all doing well this holiday season. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment so you could be entered in to win this Funko Pop of Spidey and Funko Pop of La Llorona, which is signed, I should say, by Marisol Ramirez. You have until midnight tonight to leave a comment on any video, starting with my Nails in a Coffin video on Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Again, I'll put a card up here. Till today, including YouTube Shorts, you get it once per video. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. Go watch all those videos so you can be entered in for more chances to win. Cool. Take care, everybody. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Stay safe. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. Remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.